One of the things we love most about Marvel characters is seeing them come together as a team, work past their differences, and maybe learn something from one another along the way. But to be honest, we also really enjoy seeing them pummeling the absolute stuffing out of each other. Forget about fantasy football. Here at CBR, we want to know which superheroes would reduce others to a fine red mist. With tons of new characters being introduced into the MCU in Phase 4 and beyond, we'd be lying if we said we weren't already thinking about our fantasy comic book character matchups. Oh, Captain Marvel. You flew into our lives in a nostalgic 90s haze in your standalone movie, and just as quickly, you were gone. Sure, Carol Danvers was technically in Avengers Endgame and played her part in saving Tony Stark and ultimately the day, but she was barely a part of the movie. We know she's tough against the Mad Titan and any spaceships that happen to cross her path, but how does she stack up to the already established Avengers roster? Ever since we saw Carol Danvers come face to face with Thor in the Endgame trailer, we've wanted to know how the MCU versions of these characters stack up to one another. Would Carol be as casual about Stormbreaker whipping past her head in the heat of battle? She gets her powers from the Space Stone and can send out massive energy blasts, but how would they affect an Asgardian warrior like Thor? Both heroes are capable of flight, they're way stronger than the average human, and they have a lot of battle experience. It seems like on a straight-up physical level, Carol would have the advantage, but in the MCU, you never know. Thor may not be the brightest guy in the MCU, but he has managed to pull some impressive come-from-behind victories. Wolverine isn't part of the MCU family yet, but now that Disney has the rights to the X-Men franchise, it's only a matter of time. Is there room for 2 heroes named after animals? Well, of course, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to see Wolverine take on the Black Panther. One of Logan's defining characteristics, his most defining characteristic is that he is strong. Mentally, physically, emotionally, the guy is a tank. Who needs emotional intelligence when you have an adamantium skeleton, am I right? Both Black Panther and Wolverine are mighty and talented fighters, which is why we'd love to see them going head-to-head. There are also their different personalities, which would make for a compelling bout. Wolverine is a berserker, while T'Challa is a much more calculated warrior. And let's not forget that T'Challa has the resources of Wakanda at his side, and that's a lot of fancy technology. Would he need prep time to take down Wolverine, or would the standard Black Panther arsenal be sufficient? One-on-one matchups are great, but of course, we love opportunities for heroes to work together, especially when it means taking down villains. After years of waiting, it was so satisfying to see Thanos get the thrashing that was coming to him. But we have a different kind of villain in mind for the next big Marvel Battle Royale. Let's think outside the box and outside of Earth and talk about Galactus. Unlike most villains, Galactus isn't out for vengeance or personal gain. All he wants to do is eat, and honestly, same. But he needs to feed on planets, and that's taking things a bit too far. Saying he's a heavy hitter is an understatement, and it would take a whole team of heroes to even have a chance of bringing him down. He is a god-tier character, and that's just the kind of foe that would bring a ragtag group of heroes together. Galactus is often associated with the Silver Surfer and the Fantastic Four, so this could be a great way to integrate Marvel's first family into the MCU. And speaking of the Silver Surfer, we have a one-on-one matchup in mind for him. He's an alien who rides through the galaxy on a surfboard, and his name is actually Norrin Rad. What a cool guy. The Silver Surfer may be awesome, but his story isn't a very cheerful one. He is virtuous to a fault, and he'll sacrifice for the greater good at the drop of a hat. So, naturally, we'd like to see him trading blows with the God of Thunder. Thor is famous for his incredible Uru weapons and his command over lightning, but he has another trait that we think would make him a compelling match for the Silver Surfer. We agree with Mjolnir that Thor is a worthy guy. He definitely started off his MCU career as spoiled and impatient, but he's grown up a lot since then. Thor even manages to constantly forgive his brother Loki, even though he's made numerous attempts on his life. In fact, Loki actually managed to trick the Silver Surfer into fighting Thor in the comics. We would love to see them show off their skills against one another, but to be honest, we'd also love to see them make up afterwards and go on to be pals. Just because the movie Avengers Endgame introduced us to the MCU's version of Professor Hulk doesn't mean we don't want to see him smashing things anymore. Come on, Hulk, put your heart into it. We loved watching Hulk take on Thor in Ragnarok, and even though his unbridled rage has been quelled, at least for now, he is still an incredibly strong fighter. Even though we've seen them go head-to-head many times in the comics, we would love to see Hulk versus Wolverine in the MCU. In Old Man Logan, the Hulk even eats Wolverine at one point. Don't worry, he managed to slash his way out. Okay, maybe Disney won't quite let things get that bad, but it would still be a really epic battle. It would be interesting to see if the Hulk maintaining the intellect of Bruce Banner would help him in the fight, or if cutting off his berserker rage would actually be a detriment when it comes to taking down Logan. They've been teasing us with the appearance of Namor since all the way back in Iron Man 2. And what about that underwater earthquake near Wakanda that Okoye mentioned in Endgame? Are we all just going to pretend that we're not barely holding it together waiting for Namor the Submariner to emerge from the depths? Okay, sorry, we'll calm down. A little, because we want to see him show up and immediately get into it with the Black Panther. These two characters have a long history in the comic books, and let's just say they aren't exactly besties. The first Black Panther movie featured one of the greatest villains in the MCU, so the sequel will need a foe that can rival the epicness of Eric Killmonger. And in addition to a traditional battle of punches, they could also engage in more tactical, intellectual battles that pit the lands of Wakanda and Atlantis against one another. Wait, does Atlantis count as a land if it's underwater? While we could talk about Sony versus Disney superhero movies all day, that's not the fight we're excited about seeing. We want to see Spider-Man face down the alien symbiote Venom. Saying that these characters cross over in the comic books is an understatement. Venom has a version of the Spider-Man symbol right on his chest. He and Peter Parker have a very weirdly close relationship, as one might expect would exist between a human being and an alien symbiote acting as a superhero costume. Because they were once great allies, they make fantastic and compelling enemies when they go head-to-head. Those personalized villains with deep running grudges really do make for the best interactions. Since we finally got to see Peter Parker versus Mysterio in Spider-Man Far From Home, we are more than ready to see Spider-Man versus Venom in the MCU. Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange would be a perfect matchup on every level. They both have great last names, use the title Doctor, and look great in a cape. Oh, and they're both ultra smart and ultra powerful magic users of epic proportions. Interestingly enough, these two have actually worked together on multiple occasions in the comic books. Hey, we said they have a lot in common. Although Doctor Doom is typically associated with the Fantastic Four, he's an excellent match for the Sorcerer Supreme, whether as a friend or as an enemy. And it probably won't surprise you to know that Doctor Doom is usually not the friendliest guy. They're both known for being as powerful as they are stubborn, which would make for an interesting fight both physically and mentally. While we love a good all-out brawl, it's also nice to see our heroes using their words to get their jobs done. Like when the Hulk faced off against the Sentry in World War Hulk. Robert Reynolds wasn't a billionaire or a soldier before he got superpowers. He was an addict and a thief who stumbled upon ridiculously incredible powers while trying to feed his habit. But even though he gains the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns, he's still not the most mentally healthy guy. And to wrap up a complex character simply, that's pretty much his greatest weakness. In World War Hulk, he is absolutely ruining the Hulk until the Hulk politely points out that he doesn't have to. It might sound a little anticlimactic, but it's a satisfying and subtle conclusion. Exactly the kind of thing we'd like to see in the MCU. One source we trust even more than our own knowledge is the late, great Stan Lee, and he had a firm stance on this next matchup. It's easy to see why we'd want to see the Hulk versus the Thing. They're both big, strong guys whose pants seem to have magical anti-rip properties. But when he was on The Tomorrow Show, Stan Lee said confidently that the Hulk would win in a fight hands down. He admitted that the Thing is faster and smarter and says those skills could result in him living to fight another day. But Stan Lee said that in a fair fight, the Hulk would be the clear victor. But that's the comic book Hulk, the guy who got stomped by Tony Stark in the Hulkbuster armor. What would happen if he fought the Thing? That is definitely a battle we'd like to see play out on the big screen. While all these battles would be amazing, we have been waiting to see Doctor Doom in the MCU for so long that the idea of him going up against Doctor Strange just can't be beat. Which one of these Marvel mashups would you most like to see? Or is there another pairing we didn't mention that's captured your imagination? Let us know what you think in the comment section below, and then click subscribe for more from CBR. Bye for now!